We're working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello, Malma Angeles. We're moving to the next stage of the pandemic, and as the world resets to the new normal, we find ourselves seeking the right balance between health and livelihood, constantly adjusting the boundaries between liberty and responsibility. On today's headlines, Metro Manila and other high-risk areas will be under a modified enhanced community quarantine effective 15 days starting Tuesday, August 4, according to the President in a decision a day after a group of medical workers called on the government to impose a 2-week lockdown in Mega Manila again to allow them to recover from exhaustion. In Malaysia, 14 new cases, 13 local transmissions, 1 imported. Gail Aldos will give us an update. Vietnam reports its 6th death as COVID-19 cases there surge. We'll have more updates from Ralph Wandolph Empire. And a blood donation drive by the Iglesia Ni Cristo in Thailand. Gila Pablo will give us the update. Metro Manila and other high-risk areas will be under a modified enhanced community quarantine effective 15 days starting Tuesday, August 4. Apart from Metro Manila, Laguna, Rizal, Cavite, and Bulacan will be under the quarantine classification based on the recommendation by Health Secretary Francisco Duque III and approved by President Duterte on Sunday night. The President made the decision a day after a group of medical workers called on the government to impose a 2-week lockdown in Mega Manila, again to allow them to recover from exhaustion. Let's listen in.
I have heard the call of different groups from the medical community for a 2-week enhanced community quarantine, ACQ, in Mega Manila. I fully understand why your health workers would like to ask for such a timeout period. They have been in the front lines for months and are exhausted. To our health workers, this is a war that you have been trained to fight. This is a profession that you, all of you, and though we're educated and trained to face such challenges, you're frontliners in the battle because you are learned in this field. Kung bayaan natin tutulungan, kung walang tutulong rather, sa bansa at ang mga kababayan natin, sino ang maasahan ko? Sino ang maasahan natin na gumawa ng trabahong ito? Huwag kayong mawalaan ng pag-asa. Nakikita at kausap ko ang iba sa inyo, habaan ninyo lang. You stretch your patience and your not endurance, because you can only also take so much, your fervor. To my fellow countrymen, we are doing everything possible to alleviate the situation, to assist our healthcare workers and enhance and upgrade our healthcare system.
At least 80 medical associations representing thousands of doctors signed a letter asking the government to revert Manila to enhanced community quarantine or ECQ. The medical workers also noted the period could be used by the government to reassess its strategies against COVID-19 amid the rising cases. The president said he understood the call of medical workers and emphasized their work was greatly appreciated. He also said the government was ready to consider a stipend for the health workers. He also called on Congress to include free transportation, free accommodation, and free COVID-19 testing for the medical workers in the proposed Bayanihan Law 2. Moving on to Malaysia now, 14 new cases, 13 local transmissions, and 1 imported. And 131 Malaysians stranded in Yemen have arrived home safely. Gail Aldos joins us live from Malaysia. Gail.
Good afternoon, Alma. Here is the latest news. 14 new cases, 13 local transmissions. 13 of them being local transmissions were reported in the country yesterday, Health Director General Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said. He said this brings the cumulative total of positive COVID-19 cases in Malaysia to 8,999, with 210 being active cases. All 13 local transmissions yesterday involved Malaysians, namely 11 from the Sivaganga cluster and 2 screening cases at the Labuan International Ferry Terminal. He said in a statement the first of the 2 Sabah cases involved a student from Sandakan arriving for studies in Labuan, while the second is from Penampang, who was in Labuan for a family holiday. Meanwhile, the sole import case involved a Filipino who got infected abroad. Dr. Nur Hisham said 17 patients had recovered and allowed to be discharged yesterday, bringing the cumulative number of recovered cases to 8,664 cases, or 96.3% of the total number of cases. There are only 2 COVID-19 positive cases being treated in the intensive care unit, one of whom need ventilator support, he said. Also, no new fatalities were reported and the death toll remains at 125 cases, or 1.39% of the total number of cases, he added. He also added active case detection is being carried out by the District Health Office to contain the spread of COVID-19, along with cleaning and disinfection activities at all premises, including the school involved and homes with positive cases. In another news, 131 Malaysians stranded in Yemen arrived home safely. The first group of 131 Malaysians reported stranded in Yemen since March, following the COVID-19 pandemic, arrived safely at the Kuala Lumpur International Airport via a specially chartered Egypt Air flight at 8:34 a.m. yesterday morning. The Deputy Foreign Minister Dato' Kamarudin Jafar said the second group of 17 people was scheduled to arrive today, August 3, via an Emirates commercial flight at 12:55 a.m. He said the journey of all 148 Malaysians started on August 1 with flights from Seyun, Yemen to Cairo, Egypt, before continuing in 2 separate flights to Malaysia. The Malaysians comprise of private students who expressed their desire to return following the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic and students who have graduated. Kamarudin, who is also the ministry's COVID-19 task force chairman, said previously some plans by the Malaysian government to bring home the group of students had to be postponed due to unavoidable logistics issues. He said the reopening the airport and there is some many government have enabled this special repatriation charter flight to be organized. The cost of repatriation is just students from low-income families. He said all the Malaysians would have to undergo COVID-19 screening tests upon arrival at KLIA and then go through a quarantine process at a quarantine station designated by the government for further monitoring. It is a follow-up to the announcement by Senior Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri on the 14-day mandatory quarantine. Kamarudin said the Wisma Putra, or Foreign Affairs Ministry, expressed its appreciation to the Yemeni government and the Malaysian Embassy in Muscat, Oman, for assisting the Malaysians to return, and the Egyptian government for their cooperation in making the repatriation mission a success. He said that Wisma Putra, through the Malaysian representatives abroad, will continue to monitor the current situation as well as work with local authorities in an effort to provide appropriate assistance to Malaysians who are still abroad. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much, Gail, for your updates there. Thank you, EBC Malaysia Bureau.
Aviation hit the hardest by the COVID-19 have never recovered nor stabilized yet. It said the locally registered airlines will be granted an extended minimum tax exemption for another 2 months from August to September. The government also extended another 2-month tax holiday from August to September for hotels, guest house, restaurants, and tour company. Patients are still receiving treatment in designated centers in Phnom Penh, and 2 Americans are receiving private care within the U.S. Embassy. Prime Minister Hun Sen warned citizens via his Facebook page not to forget to protect themselves from the virus by following hygiene and transmission prevention measures. Back to you, Alma.
All right. Thank you very much, Crystal Ann, for your updates there in Phnom Penh. Take care of yourself.
You too, Alma. For Cambodia's news and update, I am Crystal Ann Ballesteros, and we live in interesting times.
And now, joining us from Vietnam is Ralph Wandolph Empire. Hello, Ralph. How are you doing?
Hi there, Alma. Thank you for asking. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Worried about you, though. You're still stuck in Da Nang, right?
That's right, Alma. And I'm still waiting for a notification or update from the local government here in Da Nang. So for my update today, Alma, a 53-year-old COVID-19 patient in Da Nang died last night, making her the 6th fatality of the pandemic in Vietnam. The woman, tagged patient 429, suffered from diabetes, chronic heart and kidney failure for the past 5.5 years. As of today, Vietnam recorded 621 cases, including 242 active patients, after 373 have recovered. However, 6 COVID-19 patients had died since Friday, including 3 on Sunday alone. The fatalities are aged between 53 and 86 and all suffered chronic diseases. Another 13 patients are in critical conditions. For 2 headlines today, Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc emphasized the spirit of resolutely zoning off pandemic hit areas and implementing social distancing, as well as taking measures to effectively control the COVID-19 pandemic. He made the request at a teleconference with all localities nationwide on Sunday to discuss measures to prevent further spread of the pandemic as new cases increase. The government in Da Nang from July 24, the number of cases kept increasing and the infection spread very quickly into the community. Within 10 days from July 24, the country recorded more than 200 new cases of COVID-19 and 5 deaths. On July 31, a single day record for new cases was hit at 82, including 56 community transmitted patients. The disease is suspected of having spread in Da Nang since early July, and there are likely many different sources of transmission with many possible undiscovered cases in the community, making it hard for the city to track the sources of transmission. Most of the community transmitted cases recorded recently have been linked to hospitals in Da Nang. Now for violation handling, Deputy Prime Minister Vu Duc Dan, head of the National Steering Committee for COVID-19 Prevention and Control, on Sunday stressed that those who fail to make health declarations and follow quarantine regulations must be handled strictly. Speaking at a meeting of the committee on Sunday, he ordered tightening COVID-19 prevention and control measures in medical, army, and police sectors, and reviewing medical check-ups and treatment in hospitals, with attention paid to departments with patients in critical conditions. Speaking at the meeting, the acting Deputy Health Minister Nguyen Thanh Long said it is expected to take longer to cope with this outbreak compared with previous ones, as it is taking place more rapidly and complicatedly. The Ministry of Health has sent a dispatch to authorities of Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, and the central province of Quang Nam, asking them to accelerate tracing of locals who returned from Da Nang from July 1 to 28 and other locations with a high risk of infection. For my final headline, Alma, in other news, Prime Minister Nguyen Xuan Phuc has urged ministries and agencies to continue taking measures to control the COVID-19 pandemic while preventing negative economic developments. At a meeting on statistics and socioeconomic development held in Hanoi on Sunday, the Prime Minister said to ensure the highest possible growth rate, it was essential to continue disbursing public investment capital, improving monetary and financial policies to create conditions for businesses to develop and promote private and social investment. He pointed to the need to keep inflation at under 4%, tap opportunities to promote exports, take measures to reduce costs for citizens and businesses, and ensure enough supply of basic commodities for all regions, particularly in areas hit by the COVID-19 pandemic. He ordered ministries and localities to have appropriate development plans and closely work with each other in statistical activities and update statistics in a timely manner to reflect the real development of the economy. The government leader asked ministries and agencies to review and update development plans for the third quarter of the year as well as for the whole of 2020 and 2021. It was necessary to have specific calculations to support sectors, businesses, cooperatives, and workers. Finally, the U.S. remains the biggest importer of Vietnam in July with revenue of $37.9 billion, a year-on-year rise of 15%. It was followed by China, the EU, ASEAN, Japan, and the Republic of Korea. Back to you, Alma.
All right, thank you very much, Ralph. Can you give us a picture on how Da Nang looks like right now? I mean, a few days ago, the eateries or restaurants were closed, right? Because of the upsurge of cases there.
That's right. Up until now, all eateries and non-essential businesses are still closed. But there are supermarkets which are still operating.
So you get your food from the supermarket then? That's good.
Yes. In fact, after this report, Alma, I'm going straight to BC Supermarket to buy my stock for the entire week.
Entire week. So you're gonna stay there for at least a week more. Is that right?
I think so, but I forgot to notify you, Alma, that this morning I received an SMS from the local government here in Da Nang saying that there is a possibility of me going back to Hanoi this week, but further details will be sent today.
Oh.
So I'm going to thank you.
All right, great news. All right, you take care of yourself. Until then, I'll see you back here. Thank
Likewise,
you, Ralph.
Alma. This is Ralph Wandel Enpa reporting live from Da Nang, Vietnam. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, the Department of Foreign Affairs reported 13 more Filipinos abroad infected with the coronavirus disease, bringing the total tally to 9,569. In its latest case bulletin, the DFA said the new cases were mostly from the Asia and the Pacific. It said, quote, compared to yesterday's percentages, the total number of those who have recovered from COVID-19 slightly increased to 58.2% of the total confirmed cases, while those who are under treatment decreased to 34.8%. Meanwhile, the percentage of those who died due to the disease remained at 7%. The total number of recoveries is 5,572. The total tally of deaths is 671. Meanwhile, a total of 3,326 Filipinos abroad are still undergoing treatment. All right, ASEAN in Focus, we'll be right back.
To all our brothers and sisters of the Iglesia ni Cristo, would like to greet your happy 106th anniversary. May you have a wonderful, wonderful day today. Okay? Congratulations!
Hi, this is Shane Reyes at ako'y bumabati sa ating mga kapatid na Iglesia ni Cristo ng happy 106th anniversary sa inyong lahat. God bless you po! Mwah!
Hi, this is Imelda Papin. Gusto ko lang batiin kayong lahat ng happy 106th anniversary. Mga kapatid, hello! Love you all!
Po si Vina Morales. Ako po'y bumabati sa ating mga kapatid ng Iglesia ni Cristo ng happy 106th year anniversary. God bless us all and see you soon. Salamat po.
Ein sonniger Tag heute hier in Berlin vor dem Bundestag. Ich bin Irene Juliet Arzadon und möchte diese Gelegenheit nutzen, um ein paar Worte mit euch zu teilen. An alle Menschen da draußen. In dieser Zeit, lasst uns nicht vergessen, den Menschen zu danken, die ihr Leben für uns opfern. Sei es die Menschen, die im Krankenhaus arbeiten, in den Altenheimen sowie in den Arztpraxen, aber auch an die Menschen, die im Lebensmittelhandel sich befinden, die Kassierer. Manchmal reicht es aus, um ihnen ein freundliches Lächeln zu geben. Denn die Menschen, die heute am Arbeiten sind, weil sie nicht so wie einige von uns zu Hause bleiben können, die sollten wir wertschätzen. Ihnen sollten wir unseren Dank ausrichten. Darum lasst uns noch mehr zusammenhalten, sie wertschätzen.
Aloha and mabuhay. My name is Hawaii State Senator Bennett Misalucha. On behalf of the people of the state of Hawaii, I'd like to congratulate the Iglesia ni Cristo on the occasion of its 106th anniversary. I have been privileged and honored to personally know some of your members. They are pillars in our community. They are a vital part of our ohana, especially in the special part of the world, which is where the Iglesia ni Cristo started its overseas mission on July 27, 1968. Mabuhay kayong lahat.
Businesses that were recently allowed to operate in Metro Manila and other general community quarantine areas will again have to shut down as the National Capital Region and parts of Calabarzon revert to a modified enhanced community quarantine starting Tuesday, August 4. Now, before President Duterte's announcement on the return to the stricter community quarantine, the DTI said gyms, review centers, and internet cafes in general community quarantine areas, which at that time also included Metro Manila and parts of Calabarzon, would be allowed to operate starting August 1, but only at 30% capacity. Now, Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez had said drive-in cinemas and grooming services such as foot spa, facials, waxing, and spot massages would also be allowed to operate in those areas. But Mr. Lopez said in a statement on Monday, August 3, that these businesses could instead use the MECQ to sufficiently prepare for better processes and facilities for compliance to the health standards when they soon reopen. Mr. Lopez said, quote, "We wish that this move back to MECQ will break the increasing trend of positive COVID cases and then will eventually allow us to bring back the much-needed livelihood and jobs to many of our countrymen." In other news, a trade agreement between the EU and Vietnam, billed as the biggest the bloc has done with a developing nation, comes into effect from Saturday, August 1, 2020. Let's listen in.
It's good news when it comes to trade agreement, the most comprehensive trade agreement that the EU has concluded with a developing country will be effective as of tomorrow, 1st of August. Tariffs will go down and the agreement will ultimately scrap duties on 99% of all goods traded between the two sides. This is particularly positive in times where our economy needs every opportunity to recover. Under the new agreement, the economic benefits will go hand in hand with guarantees of respect for labor rights, environment protection, and the Paris Agreement on climate.
The free trade agreement signed in Hanoi in June last year will phase out tariff barriers over a decade for Vietnam and over 7 years for the EU. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the deal would open doors to new markets and create jobs in Europe, where the economy has been badly battered by the pandemic. The EU's Trade Commissioner Phil Hogan said that Vietnam had already made an effort to improve labor rights as a result of the tough negotiations to get the deal. The European Parliament approved the deal in February despite pleas of activists who voiced doubt over the deal, over the real impact of Vietnam's labor reforms, and pointed to further concerns about freedom of expression, deforestation, overfishing, and animal trafficking. Vietnam is the EU's second biggest trading partner in Southeast Asia, with annual exchanges amounting to nearly 48 billion euros. Now, the EU largely imports telecoms equipment, apparel, and food products from Vietnam and exports machinery, transport equipment, and chemical and agricultural products. ASEAN and Australian health experts met online to exchange best practices on the public health response to COVID-19. Australia was represented by Acting Chief Medical Officer Dr. Paul Kelly and Australia's Ambassador for Regional Health Security for our Dr. Stephanie Williams. Meanwhile, ASEAN was represented by the focal points of the ASEAN Senior Officials Meeting, Health Development, led by Indonesia's Ministry of Health Secretary General Dr. Oscar Primadi as SOMHD Chair and Lao PDR's Health Ministry Permanent Secretary Dr. Nao Bota as SOMHD Vice Chair. The ASEAN SOMHD Chair and Vice Chair were represented by the Director of Indonesia's Health Ministry, Biomedical Research Center by Dr. Vivi Setwati, and Deputy Director of Laos PDR's Health Ministry Cabinet, Dr. Bunsert Kiyo Prasith, respectively. Now, the country coordinators for ASEAN Health Cluster 2 on responding to all hazards and emerging threats and contact points of the ASEAN Emergency Operations Center Network for Public Health Emergencies participated in this meeting. Dr. Setyawati shared the ASEAN health sector's COVID-19 response measures through the mobilization of existing cooperation mechanisms since early January 2020, aimed at reinforcing national public health responses. She also outlined the priority and strategic directions for the ASEAN health sector in responding to the pandemic as guided by the ASEAN health ministers, which includes research and development on appropriate tools and interventions such as vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics for COVID-19. Dr. Kelly and Dr. Williams shared Australia's epidemiological experiences, including transmission modeling and forecasting, standard operating procedures for public health emergencies, and ongoing pandemic management strategies. The health experts reiterated the importance they place on cooperation with each other and recognized that the region's health security is closely intertwined. In other news, a British woman was charged with murdering her husband on the Malaysian island or holiday island of Langkawi, with her lawyer saying that the suspect felt overwhelmed. Samantha Jones, 51, appeared in court on the island accused of killing John William Jones, who was found with a stab wound to the chest in their house earlier this month. A court official read out the charge of murder, which is punishable with a mandatory sentence of death by hanging in Malaysia, and Jones indicated that she understood but did not enter a plea. She is accused of committing the murder in the early hours of October 18. Jones' lawyers, Sangkit Kawardeo, said that the suspect felt very, very overwhelmed and that it is her husband at the end of the day, so she's also grieving for him despite the circumstances of the case. She told reporters outside the magistrate's court the British couple had lived for the past 11 years on the jungle-clad island in northwest Malaysia, which attracts millions of tourists to its beaches every year. And police say Jones is suspected of killing her 62-year-old husband after a row. A blood-stained knife was found on the floor of their bedroom following her arrest. She will again appear in court on November 29, according to lawyers, and the case was not yet ready for trial as authorities were still getting documentation in order. Now, Vietnam Express reported a 53-year-old COVID-19 patient in Da Nang succumbed to the disease Sunday night, making her the sixth fatality of the pandemic in Vietnam. According to Vietnam Express, she tested positive for the novel coronavirus on July 27. At around 12:30 p.m., she suffered from respiratory failure and had to have her blood artificially filtered continuously starting 9 a.m. Sunday. She was pronounced dead at around 4:30 p.m. the same day. The causes of death included acute heart failure, myocardial infarction, chronic kidney failure, diabetes, and COVID-19. The communist nation was applauded earlier this year for controlling COVID-19 with strict restrictions on movement, extensive quarantine measures, and a robust track and trace regime. But an outbreak over the weekend in the beach resort of Da Nang near Hanoi or near Hoi An has put the country back on high alert. Now, health officials on Friday also announced the country's highest single daily caseload since the pandemic began. Recognizing the hardships of medical frontliners amid the surge in coronavirus disease cases in the country, President Duterte encouraged them to soldier on for the people. Let's listen in.
Kung walang tutulong, brother, sa bansa at ang mga kababayan natin, sino ang maasahan ko? Sino ang maasahan natin na gumawa ng trabahong ito? And you raise the spectacle of yung ang agony ninyo, you treat it as if you're about ready to stop to war. Huwag naman ganun kasi kawawa ang mga kababayan. My wife has also volunteered to be a frontliner. May anak kami, kaisa-isa. But since she is moved by a sense of, kasi nasabi niya, nahihiya siya sa sarili niya. She's a nurse, and yet, ang trabaho, itong ganitong parang it's a war against microbes. Who are our soldiers? The nurses and the doctor.
Now, he also vowed to hire additional healthcare workers to provide them with additional benefits, life insurance, free accommodation, free transportation, free and frequent testing, minimize movement by implementing quarantine passes, directing local government units or LGUs to intensify the localized lockdowns, enforce guidelines for minimum health standards, and prioritize the use of reverse transcription polymerase chain reaction or RT-PCR testing. President Duterte agreed there should be a 10,000 to 15,000 pesos sickness benefit for all healthcare workers who contract COVID-19. The president said he approved of the recommendation made by National Task Force COVID-19 Chief Implementer Carlito Galvez Jr. in a meeting with cabinet members on Sunday night. In recommending the 10,000 peso sickness benefit, Mr. Galvez said there was some sort of psychological impact on our health workers when they get the disease. Now, under the Bayanihan law, only those who are severely sick with COVID-19 are entitled to a 100,000 peso benefit. When a coronavirus lockdown confined Malaysians to their homes, street traders selling durians moved their pungent produce online and have been enjoying a spike in demand. Grown across tropical Southeast Asia, even here in the Philippines, the durian is hailed by aficionados as the king of fruits due to its creamy, golden flesh and bittersweet flavor. Take a look.
When we started our sales end of March, 2 days after we launched our product online, we have a lot of inquiry on our frozen durian. And by 5th day of our sales, we are talking about hundreds of orders every single day.
Our fresh package, we sell 300 grams, 400 grams package. All are in pack well, vacuum packed, so you don't have any smell. So you can bring it to your own condo, sit in your aircon and enjoy your durians.
So people will still go offline to the stores to eat. But at the same time, there is a batch of consumer that is also, I like to enjoy my durian, don't disturb me, I don't want other people to see how ugly I am when I enjoy my durian, things like that.
ASEAN in Focus, we'll be right back.
Ako po si Congressman Roland Valeriano ng ikalawang distrito ng lungsod ng Maynila lubos na bumabati ng maligayang anibersaryo ng pagkakatatag ng Iglesia ni Cristo. 10 po ng aking pamilya at ng buong nasasakupan ko, ang Distrito 2 ng Maynila, ay nakikiisa sa inyo sa matagumpay na pamamahala, lalo-lalo na po ni Ka Eduardo Manalo sa mga panahon na ito, na kung saan po ay nasubukan natin ang katatagan ng mamamayang Pilipino at ng buong mundo. Sa panahon po ng pandemya na dinaranas natin ngayon, ang Iglesia ni Cristo po ay nagpamalas ng galing sa pagtulong sa kapwa-tao upang kahit papano ay maibsan ang paghihirap ng mga mamamayan. Muli po sa inyong lahat sa buong Iglesia ni Cristo, kay Ka Eduardo Manalo, ang aking pong pamilya at ang buong mamamayan ng Distrito 2 ng Maynila, 10 ng Kalakhan ng Maynila, ay bumabati at naway magpatuloy ang tagumpay ng Iglesia ni Cristo para sa sambayanang Pilipino at sa buong mundo. Salamat po.
Ito po si Angeline Quinto. Abangan ang part 2 ng Tagisan ng Galing dito lang sa Net 25.
Sa nakalipas na higit 1 siglo, bahagi ang Iglesia ni Cristo sa pagtuturo, paghuhubog at pagpapatibay ng pananampalataya ng milyon-milyong tao sa buong mundo. Bahagi rin ang Iglesia ni Cristo sa kasaysayan ng bansa, sa pakipaghamok sa lahat ng pagsubok at hamon ng buhay. Akin pong binabati ang Iglesia ni Cristo sa inyong ika-106 na taong anibersaryo. Maligayang anibersaryo po sa inyo.
Mula po sa programa ng Aksyon OFW at ng TESDA, ako po si John Bertiz, bumabati ng 106th anniversary sa lahat ng Iglesia ni Cristo sa buong mundo. Muli, happy anniversary po!
Welcome back. The Iglesia ni Cristo launched a blood donation drive in Thailand. Here's Gila Pablo for the details.
We are here in National Blood Center in Bangkok, Thailand, to witness members of Iglesia ni Cristo or Church of Christ as they volunteer to donate blood. Through FYM Foundation, this activity is actively participated by members from different parts or areas of Bangkok and even from the province of Pattaya.
The donors adhere to the procedure on how they can donate blood. From filling up forms, screening, and queuing, they patiently waited for their turn while abiding social distancing and wearing of masks. Their lips may be covered with masks, but their eyes spark hope and joy to be of help, especially in this pandemic where there are less people donating blood.
Ako po ay sumama sa aktibidad na ito dahil po una nga po ito'y panawagan ng pamamahala na makapagkaisa tayo at ito po ay bahagi na rin ng pagtulong natin sa ating kapwa. Yung ginagawa po nating lingap sa mamamayan, kasama rin po ito sa programang yun. Kaya yun po ang nabudlok sa akin na sumama sa aktibidad na ito.
The activity is led by ministers and church officers. Volunteers arrive in the blood bank early so as not to congest the place. Children, adult, and even elderly joined this event.
The activity that we have conducted today is so timely because we have complied the call of the government of Thailand to donate blood to our fellow men. And you have seen the members of the Iglesia ni Cristo we unite with this aim and this objective of the church administration, because when we give blood, then we extend the lives of our fellow men. We thank our beloved executive minister, Brother Eduardo Di Manalo, in leading the whole church in all our endeavors such as this one, so we could extend our help to our fellow men like this activity that we have conducted here in Thailand.
Aside from aid to humanity that the members of Church of Christ Holy Iglesia ni Cristo through FYM Foundation has been doing around the world before and even this time of pandemic, this blood donation is remarkable as they are not just donating goods to ease poverty, but also donating their blood to help those who are sick. Through the leadership of Brother Eduardo Di Manalo, who continues to inspire them to do good to those who are in need, this event is an evidence of their continuous unity whenever they are in the world. Reporting from Bangkok, Thailand, I'm Gila Pablo. We live in interesting times.
Thank you, Gila, and a special shout out to Brother Willen Regalado. Thank you very much po. And now from Blood Donation Drive to an aid to humanity in Papua New Guinea, Eco Hortaleza Quinola reports.
Connection with the Iglesia ni Cristo 106th anniversary celebration, the members here in Papua New Guinea are holding an Aid for Humanity program and an evangelical mission with a well-observed social distancing and wearing of masks. They are happily giving these people food parcels that will help alleviate their daily needs. Amidst the pandemic which we are all suffering right now, the Iglesia ni Cristo never stops giving alms to the needy people of Papua New Guinea. They have done series of Aid for Humanity programs in Port Moresby and in other nearby provinces of the National Capital District. In a place called Morobe Province, Ley City, the second largest province in Papua New Guinea, members of the Iglesia ni Cristo, headed by Brother Edmarc Velasco, convened for a series of food parcel distributions as an act of kindness and support to those families who were affected by the state of emergency implementation and suffered a lot when hunger stalks the land. Meanwhile, another Aid for Humanity was also witnessed in an island called Cranket. This is a tiny island with beautiful scenic spots just off the town of Madang Province. The Iglesia ni Cristo members bravely traveled 40 minutes by boat to reach the less fortunate people waiting for alms. The so-called officers of this church generously shared their help via disbursing food parcels and extended free medical checkups to the sick and weak recipients. Through a live evangelism streaming, Minister Jojo Villapane preached the church's doctrine and belief. The members of the Iglesia ni Cristo from Windham, Winchelsea, and Wamnambul joined them through WebEx. Just a while ago in Port Moresby, the capital city of Papua New Guinea, the Iglesia ni Cristo members successfully had their own share of providing aid for humanity. Headed by Minister Regino Manangan Jr., they continuously made a difference during this pandemic.
Salamat po sa ating tagapamahalang pangkalahatan, kapatid na Eduardo V. Manalo. Salamat po sa ating Panginoong Diyos na maayos po at payapang naisagawa, may tagumpay na naisagawa ang ginawang pamamahayag ng mga salita ng Diyos dito po sa lokal ng Port Moresby. Naibahagi din po ang lingap sa mga panauhin namin na totoong kailangan nila lalo na sa panahon ngayon ng pandemya.
After enriching their visitors' spiritual welfare, they also distributed goodwill bags and other basic needs. The Iglesia ni Cristo members believe that it may seem like a small gesture, but a big positive impact of helping our fellow men is one of the best ways to be of service to them. The Iglesia ni Cristo administration never stops holding their Aid for Humanity program because they believe that through this activity, They give great help to those people who are suffering hardships brought by this pandemic. All the attendees were so thankful and would like to know more about this religion.
So excited because it's a privilege to come here and then to know about the words of God, and it is so interesting. So all the teaching was just based on the Bible, and I was so excited, and yeah, I want to become a member and so thankful for the food package. It's I'm so grateful. Yeah, thank you so much. With this pandemic, I don't think we'll be like still like continue coming here if we want to come for our Bible studies, but we should make an effort to come and learn more about the Christians. What I think about the Iglesia ni Cristo, it's so helpful in the teaching and so helpful when time of pandemics and all crisis and whatnot in every country, and it's so helpful to all the nation.
Pangako po namin na patuloy po kaming makikipagkaisa sa lahat po ng adhikain ng tagapamahalang pangkalahatan, lalo na po sa pamamahagi ng ating pong pananampalataya. Dahil nananalig po kami na hanggat may mga tao na dapat makarating sa kanilang katotohanan, hindi po kami titigil na maging kasangkapan para sila'y matawag sa loob ng Iglesia ni Cristo. Kaya po mula sa mga kapatid dito po sa lokal ng Port Moresby, mula po sa aking sambahayan, sa ating pong tagapamahalang pangkalahatan at sa lahat ng mga kapatid sa buong mundo, pangako po namin na patuloy po naming ilalagak ang aming pag-asa sa mga biyayang darating, lalo na sa pagtatamo ng buhay na walang hanggan. Happy anniversary po, mga kapatid.
Reporting from Port Moresby, Papua New Guinea, this is Echo Hortaleza Quinola. We live in interesting times.
Meanwhile, Indonesia's Diponegoro University held its graduation ceremony without its flesh and blood graduates, with robots receiving diplomas from the rector's hands in the students' stead. The 2,500 graduates were only allowed to watch the formalities via live broadcast due to the pandemic's social distancing rules, but they were represented by the top 3 students in each faculty who had their faces displayed on screen as the robots took the stage. Let's take a look.
Pak, nanti giginya garing, Pak.
Terbaik dan dikuatkan dari setiap pelajaran yang berdepan. Amin.
And that's the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.